Wonderful. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time of your day to be with us today. This is the user training for Girlguiding. So we have quite an agenda for you today, but don't worry, you're going to be completely fine. So our objective is that by the end of today's session, you're all going to be Zoom experts and you will know what you can and can't do. So first off, we're going to get started with a couple of FAQs that we had in our last session, so last week, Wednesday. We will also show you how you can log into the Zoom web account. We will then talk about the Zoom web account as well. I will then show you how you can schedule meetings. Then we will go through the Zoom meeting controls. So what happens once you are setting up a meeting and you've invited your participants, what exactly can you do? Then we will talk about the mobile application as well. And lastly, we will talk about resources and support. Now, my colleague Jessica has mentioned that you can ask questions, of course, during this webinar. For this, you have a Q&A button at the lower menu over here. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to click that Q&A button, post your questions, and we'll respond as soon as we can. Also, at the very end of the session, we will stop the recording and we'll get to your questions personally as well. Okay. Cool, so let's get started. First things first, today's training talks through the predetermined settings for those who have pro licenses with Girlguiding. If you already had a personal account with Zoom, you will not have the same settings as Girlguiding, right? Otherwise, please follow the digital safeguarding policy. And if you don't have a pro account at all, we will update the FAQ page with more instructions as soon as possible on that as well. And another question that came up quite regularly last time, where can you find the recordings and the slides? So the recording and slides will be uploaded to the website after today's session. Louise, Helen, is there anything you would still like to add to that, or are we good?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Wonderful. Great. Then the first step actually is how do I sign into my Zoom web portal? Now for this, you have a branded site, also very easy to remember. You can just type in girlguiding.zoom.us and this will bring you over to a vanity URL that looks a little bit like this. So from here, you're able to join and connect to a meeting that's currently in progress as long as you have the meeting ID. You can also start a meeting from here and you can also sign in to configure your account. Okay. All right, great. So next, what we're going to talk about is the web portal specifically. So this is going to be a live demonstration as well. We're just briefly going to touch base on the profile page, the meeting tab, and I will also just show you what kind of information you can find on the settings tab as well. Now with the settings tab, I just want to reiterate that Girlguiding has predefined specific settings for you that ensure you have the best meeting experience as well. Okay, so for this, I'm going to go ahead and share my other screen and I will show you what you can find in the web portal. Now, once you signed in successfully, this is the page that you're going to get. So you're going to see your name, so not my name, but you're going to see your name. And you will also have the opportunity to change your profile picture. Now, for the case that you don't want to join a meeting with your camera switched on, maybe you're having a bad hair day, or maybe you're not feeling so good, it's no problem. You can still join the meeting with your camera switched off, but we would encourage you to upload a profile picture as that would make it a lot more personal as well. Right, so you can easily just change that or upload it from here. Okay, from here you also have a lot of different information available. Feel free to read through that as well, but just wanted to touch base on the profile page for 1 second too. Now, I want to show you how you can schedule meetings from the web portal specifically. Now from here, if you click on the meetings tab, you'll have the opportunity to see your upcoming meetings as well. So if you've already scheduled your meetings for a long time in advance, it's quite nice as you get to see them listed here as well. Now, what I would like to do is I would like to schedule a new meeting with you right now. So we'll go ahead and click on schedule meeting. From here, we can give our meeting a topic name as well. So we can call this Girlguiding demo meeting. We can give this a brief description. Perhaps you want to mention what exactly you will be doing in this meeting. So maybe it's sort of like a little homework assignment. In this meeting, we will be discussing new activities that we will conduct via Zoom. All right. You can also indicate when this is going to take place, right? So make sure you set that right date, the right time as well. And don't worry too much about the duration. The duration doesn't indicate that suddenly your meeting is going to end after 1 hour, not at all. This is only really to block that time in your calendar. Okay, so the meeting will only end if you as the host end the meeting for everybody. All right, make sure you set that up as a time zone as well. So you select your right time zone. And if you do see a couple of things here that you don't see yourself in your account, don't worry, this is because your administrators have predefined settings for you as well. Okay, in terms of meeting ID, please always generate that meeting ID automatically. You want to make sure that every time you schedule a new meeting, you're not going to be using that same meeting ID, but a random meeting ID. And you can also add extra layers of security to that meeting by adding a passcode or a waiting room. So I'm going to talk about these in just a second as well when we go through the in-host meeting controls. For video, we would always encourage you to have your video switched on when you join a meeting. That way everybody, of course, can see you as well. And it's always very nice to put a face to the name, right? You also have audio options. So for audio options, it should be defaulted to telephone and computer audio. And that would indicate that any type of participant can join your meeting either with their computer, or if they wish to dial into the meeting as well, that's no problem at all, right? So that would just accommodate both type of joiners. Okay, then you have some additional meeting options at your disposal again. Again, these have been predefined by your administrator. So if you don't see some of them like I am, don't worry, okay? Right, and if you're happy with that generally, you can go ahead and click on save. But one thing I do want to touch base on real quick is the alternative host option. So what is an alternative host? This is somebody within the Girlguiding account who would be able to start your meeting on your behalf. Let's say that I've scheduled a meeting next week with my girls, and it turns out that actually next week I'm on vacation, but everyone has already confirmed to this date and time. It would be really a hassle for me to reschedule it all again. So what I can do is I can go ahead and enter an alternative host email address here. This person needs to be part of the same Girlguiding Zoom account, so it can't be anyone externally. It would need to be someone within the Girlguiding account. And this person will need to have a pro license assigned to them, right? So if I then add them as an alternative host, I can go ahead and save. Once I've done that, I'll just get a reconfirmation of the meeting that I've set up right now. So from here, I could also go ahead and copy it to my calendar respectively. I would get my meeting ID, and I can go ahead and even copy this invite link and send it out via email if I want to, or maybe I'm connected via chat with someone, so I can send it over, right? But as you can see, it's quite easy to set up a meeting through the web portal as well. So we've talked about the profile, we've talked about how to set up meetings. I did want to bring your attention to the settings tab as well, very, very briefly as well, just to let you know that you do have a lot of different settings available at your disposal. Right? Want to talk to you how you can use the settings specifically and how you can read into those settings specifically. If, for instance, later on you're going to go through them and maybe there's a setting you are not entirely sure of, there should always be a brief description right underneath each of the settings, right? So if there's anything you don't understand, just refer to that description down below, or otherwise on our support center, we have an even more detailed description of each of these features. Okay, some of them may already be switched on for you or switched off, and some of them have been locked by your administrator. So if there's something that you can't modify, it's generally always supported with a small lock right next to it, and it will say that this has been locked by an admin. Right, so I hope that was helpful. I hope this gives you a better understanding on how you can navigate around the web portal a little bit. It's all a matter of practice, in all honesty. So I would recommend maybe just take a couple minutes later on as well, just to go through it once or twice. And if you have any questions, just let us know. Okay, so what we're going to talk about next is how you can host a Zoom meeting and the in-meeting controls. So the scenario is going to be the following. You scheduled your meeting, you've invited your participants, and the day has come. You're about to host your very first Zoom meeting. So your hands are maybe a little bit sweaty, you're a little bit nervous, maybe you had to drink a little bit of encouragement, if you know what I mean, but don't worry, you're going to be completely fine. Because after today's session, as mentioned, you should be completely confident with that. So once you join your meeting, you will see the following image. Not this specific image, because this is our colleague Colin, but once you join, you'll be able to get a little pop-up if you're not automatically connected to the audio. And from here, you can specify if you would like to join the meeting using your computer audio as well. Now, with that, you can just click on that blue button. And if you always want to join with your computer audio, you can click that check mark right here. Alternatively, under the phone call tab, you will also have the option to dial into the meeting. This means that maybe I don't have a microphone on my computer itself, but I do have a speaker, but I still want to use the microphone off my phone in order to join the meeting. So once I hit that phone call button, I'll see a phone number that I can call. I will have to enter the meeting ID and the participant ID, and that way I can enter the meeting as well and take control with my audio, right? Wonderful. So once me and my participants are in the meeting itself, I'll get the following overview, right? So this is what we call our meeting window. From here, you will have instant access to your in-meeting controls as well. Just to give you a couple of examples, your microphone, your camera, ending your meeting, and different viewing options. So we're just going to talk about each of those really briefly as well. So from the bottom left corner, I can always mute and unmute myself. I can click on this arrow right here that will allow me to select the microphone and speaker I would like to use for the meeting. The general idea is that whatever is recognized by your computer in terms of audio input will also be recognized by Zoom. Now, in this example, you see quite a few microphones and quite a few speakers. I don't know about you, but I'm not that techie, so I wouldn't be able to tell you which one is which. For this, you can always test your speaker and microphone from here, and the system is automatically going to go through each one of them to see which microphone you'll be using. Same with the speaker. Over here, you also have the camera button, which allows you to start and stop the video at any given time, right? So if you don't want to have your video shown or do want to have your video shown, you can easily decide that yourself. And if you click on this arrow over here, once you do that, you can select which camera you would like to use for your meeting. So if you have a fancy setup and you have maybe an additional webcam at the top right of your display somewhere, you can choose if you want to use your built-in camera or your webcam on the fly. Right, you can also choose a virtual background from here. So as you may notice, this is not my real background. I don't live in a world where I have this fancy background. So it's possible that this may not work for every single computer. It really depends on the sort of specifications and compatibility of your operating system. So we have a support article on that. I'm happy to share that later as well. But just in case you're trying this out and it doesn't work, you will know why. All right, then from here, you will have the opportunity to see some additional information on your meeting. So you can see the meeting ID, you can see who the host of the meeting is, and also quickly copy and paste the invitation URL to maybe one of your participants who forgot to join. At the bottom right, you have an end meeting button. So as the host, you can end the meeting for everybody, right? So once you hit that button and choose end meeting, it will close the application of Zoom for all of your participants. You have another button right underneath that. It says leave meeting. So all your participants will see the leave meeting instead of the end meeting for all button. The leave meeting button lets you leave the meeting with keeping the meeting active. However, as the host, you will need to assign your host rights to somebody else in order for the meeting to remain active. I will show you how to do that later, but just to give you an example, if I were to click leave meeting, the meeting would actually end for all. Therefore, I would need to give someone my host rights, the rights for them to host my meeting basically, in order for the meeting to remain active. I'll show you how to do that. It's super simple. You also have some different viewing options available. So I like to call this the cinema mode. This is actually called active speaker mode. So whoever is currently talking will be visible in a larger presentation view, and up to 5 participants will be listed at the very top here as well. Okay. You also have the gallery view. The gallery view, on the other hand, makes you see up to 49 participants at once on your screen. Everyone will have the same size video as well. And we tend to do this, for instance, internally at Zoom for our team meetings, for quick catch up with colleagues, anything like that. And this is also a really great experience if everybody has their camera turned on and you ask them an open question like, hey, do you guys need anything? Is there anything I can do? And to see all of them shaking their head, for instance, this is a really cool experience. So definitely love the gallery view personally. Right, so I want to touch base on a very important topic as well, which is security for your meeting. Now, we want to make sure that while you're in the meeting, you have everything set up as secure as possible, of course, but we also want to show you that during the meeting, in case you're uncertain, you can always add additional layers of security on the fly. So for this, Zoom has initiated the security button down here. And once you, so only you as the host will see this, right? So once you click on that button, you will see the following options. So I just want to touch base on them real quick to explain to you what exactly they mean. First one, lock meeting. It's exactly that. If you are complete with your group in your meeting and you know you're not expecting anyone else, maybe you heard from someone, oh yeah, I accidentally shared that meeting ID on my social media channels, just save yourself in terms of security, just lock the meeting. It's as if you're going into a room, you close the room and you lock it with a key. So even if someone might have gotten a hold of the meeting ID and password, they will not be able to enter because the meeting has been locked by the host. You can also enable the waiting room from here. So a waiting room is exactly that. I want you to imagine that you're waiting to get into your meeting, right? So only the host can decide who is going to be admitted into the meeting itself, and they can see that as a pop-up. So they will see that in the participant tab over here, how many people are waiting in the waiting room, and they can admit them either one by one or all at once. Right underneath that, you have a couple of options in which you can disable certain functionalities to your attendees as well, such as you can allow participants to share their screen, you can allow them to chat, you can allow them to rename themselves, and you can also allow them to unmute themselves. With any of these features, if you remove the check mark, this will disable that function for your participants. Okay. Then we have 2 more at the bottom, also extremely important ones. You have one which is called remove participant. So by clicking on this button, imagine the scenario that, same scenario, someone accidentally shared it on their social channels, right? And someone got into your meeting, suddenly they're called Tina Turner and they're not willing to identify themselves, they're not willing to cooperate, and maybe you're going to talk about something quite sensitive that you don't want everyone to know about. So I would encourage you to remove that participant if they're not willing to identify who they are. Just click on that, you'll see the participant list and you can kick them out of the meeting. The difference to removing a participant and reporting should only really be used if something terrible would happen in terms of somebody would come into your meeting and share highly inappropriate content, for example. You can report that person, you can specify why you're reporting the person, you can send a screenshot of your meeting as well, and that person will then be reported and removed from the meeting. Okay, so once you report someone, this will actually be sent to our trust and safety team at Zoom to further investigate, and they can go ahead and even block those IP addresses from joining any other meeting. Okay, so security for your meeting, very easy to set that up on the fly as well. Great, so let's move on to this next button right here, which is the participant button. And from here, you can not sort of, but you can manage your participants. So if you click on this button, you will always see yourself first as the host. And from here, you can also always see whether your participants have a microphone and a camera connected and whether that is disabled or not. At the bottom here, you also have nonverbal feedback. So if, for example, you're in a meeting with your group and all of a sudden all of them have their camera switched off, but you still sort of want to know what the sentiment is, if anyone has any questions, but you can't see them, right, because their camera is off, you can ask them to provide nonverbal feedback. So if they say no, no questions, or yes, I have a question, whatever they enter here will be visible right next to their name. So nonverbal feedback is also a really cool option. Now, at the bottom here, you have a couple of buttons that I just want to touch base on. So for example, you're in your meeting and you realize I actually forgot to invite somebody to the meeting. It's no problem. You can always hit that invite button as well and invite people on the fly. I do want to talk about the more button as well. From here, you can set up specific settings for your meeting as well. So if somebody joins your meeting, you can automatically mute them. You can also play a sound when someone joins or leaves the meeting. In all transparency, that's a doorbell. And I'm not a fan of doorbells. So I generally have this setting just switched off when I join. This is also a place where you could lock your meeting again. And you can also enable your waiting room from here. Now, once you have some participants in your meeting, this is what it's going to look like. So again, you can verify who has a microphone and a camera connected and whether that is switched on or off. If, for instance, Colin would reach out to me and say, look, Dana, I don't know how to mute myself, right? So from here, I can always click on the more button and I, for instance, could also mute him from here. I could chat with him from here as well. If I see he has a camera connected, I can always ask him to start his video, but this doesn't mean that his camera is automatically going to turn on. If I ask him to start his video, he's going to get a pop-up saying, hey, the host is asking for you to turn on your camera, yes or no. Now, this is the place. Remember at the beginning when I said you can't just leave the meeting, you first need to make somebody the host of your meeting in order for the meeting to remain active. This is where you do it. So you just hover over a participant, you click on more, and you make them the host of the meeting. Right underneath that, you have a co-host option. So I like to call this actually the co-pilot function. This is generally someone who runs the meeting with you. This is going to be then a person who has the same in-meeting controls as you. So they can do basically everything that you can as the host, with certain exceptions, such as they can't end the meeting for everybody. Okay. You can also rename someone if Colin says, look, I don't want my last name to show on here. No problem. I can rename him, but he can also do it himself. I can also remove or report a participant from here as well. Great. Let's talk about that in-meeting chat for a second. So you have the chat box right here. Once you click on it, you'll be able to chat with everybody as well. Ignore the private parts. Oh, wow, that sounds wrong. Sorry. Ignore the private section over here. But from here, you would be able to, for instance, save your chat. You can also allow participants to chat with nobody. You can allow the participants to chat with only the host or everyone publicly as well. So if you want to send a message to everyone, just feel free to enter your message there and make sure that it's on everyone too. Great, so that's the in-meeting chat. From here, I'll bring you over to the share screen button. So once you hit that share screen button, you will get the following pop-up, and this will show you all the applications that you currently have up and running open in the background of your desktop as well. So from here, you can choose to share the entirety of your desktop, for example. You can also share a whiteboard if you guys want to annotate or anything like that. You can also share content through your iPhone or iPad if you wish. You can share a specific application, just like what I'm doing right now. I'm sharing my PowerPoint only. And earlier, I also shared my Google Chrome window when I showed you the web portal for a sec as well. If I have several open, I can also specify which one I want to share specifically or any other application. Now, at the very beginning of the session, you may or may not have heard some elevator music. This is right. What I actually did is I shared a hold slide on my PowerPoint, and I also went ahead and clicked on share computer sound over here. So once I hit the PowerPoint and share computer sound and hit the share button, this is how you were able to see my PowerPoint presentation, but also hear the elevator music in the back. right? So very easy to share sound as well. Another example would be if you want to share a video with your team, then you can always go ahead and share the video accordingly. Make sure you have share computer sound enabled and also optimize for full screen video clip. And don't forget to hit the share button. Under the Advanced tab, you can share a portion of your screen, computer sound only, or content from a second camera. Or you can also share files through Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive, or Box as well. Great. So if you're the person who's currently sharing their screen, you will get this additional menu pop-up appearing at the very top of your screen. So this gives you instant access to your in-meeting controls as well. So again, to your microphone, your camera, you can manage your participants from here. You can start a new share as well. So this will allow you to seamlessly transition between different applications too. You can also pause your share if, for example, you want to share a Chrome window and you realize you need to log in somewhere with your private email address and you don't really want to show that. Don't worry, you can always go ahead and click on pause share. And from here, you can go ahead and log in and resume share accordingly. Now, the annotation tool can also be found from here. So this allows you to draw and write on shared content very easily as well. So you can draw various shapes, as you can see. You can also use a pointer or also just free draw if you like as well. Under the More button, you have instant access as well to your chat. You can also easily end the meeting from here, and you have some other settings as well. Great. So now you know how to host your Zoom meeting, how to add those extra layers of security, and also how to change your view and manage your participants as well. Now, I want to talk about the mobile application briefly as well. In case you didn't know, Zoom has a mobile application that you can download onto your device. So that's for Apple and Android devices as well. And you can find that app either in your app store or on our website, zoom.us/download, just to give you an idea of what the experience will be like. So once you've downloaded the application, you can sign in accordingly with your Girlguiding email address as well that you have associated to your Girlguiding account. From here, you will have access to a couple of home screen buttons, I like to call them, so you can easily start an instant meeting. You can join a meeting that's currently in progress. So once you hit that button, you will get this overview, so you can enter the meeting ID and also your name if you like. And you can also see all of your upcoming meetings from here too. So all your upcoming Zoom meetings, you'll be able to see that from here. So if you've been invited to a meeting, you will see the join button. If you are the host of that meeting, you will see the start button as well. Now, let's say that you have joined a meeting on your mobile application, but actually you don't want your microphone or your camera on. That's no problem. You can always swipe to the right once you're in the meeting, and this will automatically disable your microphone and video, and you will get that big tap to speak button over here. If, for example, you are in a meeting and you would like to have your camera switched on and you want to see the rest of your participants, for this, I'm going to use my annotation tool as well, just to kind of showcase that. Now, let's say that this is your mobile phone. I apologize in advance for my poor drawing skills. Let's say this is your mobile phone and you are joining a meeting that already has a few participants in there. Now, generally speaking, you will always see up to 4 participants in that meeting. So I'm just going to draw a couple of smiley faces over here, just to give you the better impression. Here we go. Here we have 1 smiley face. Here we have that. So you can see up to 4 participants at once. If, for example, you're in a meeting with about 20 people or so, and you want to see them all at once. So at this time, this is not possible. But if you want to see the rest of your participants, you can just go ahead and swipe to the right, and that will show you 4 participants at a time. Okay. If you want to see the active speakers, so only the one person who's already talking, you can just go ahead, imagine you're in that first window, you can go ahead and swipe to the left and then you will only see the main speaker. This main speaker is not going to be visible in this overview, but more in a horizontal overview, right? So this would mean that you would have to go ahead and turn your screen around. I hope that was clear. All right, cool. And of course, you have a few meeting settings as well at your disposal. I would encourage you, before you join or start any meeting from your mobile device, just to hit that settings cogwheel just at the bottom right-hand side and go through everything at least once, as these settings will not be predetermined for you. So please make sure you just check those once or twice before you join. Wonderful. So we're almost at the end. I just want to let you know that you have, of course, if you have any questions later on or after today's training as well, don't hesitate to visit our support page. Our support page, I will just go ahead and send the link to everybody. That is support.zoom.us. I would also encourage you to bookmark this page. From here, you can find video tutorials on everything I spoke about today, technical how-tos, and of course, as mentioned, the FAQs are going to be updated after today's session as well. So you should get all the information that you need right over there. Great. So the tips and best practices I want to leave with you as well is, just before the meeting, make sure you test your audio and your video. If you're going to share any content, make sure you have that ready in advance as well. Close any applications with pop-ups. So I'm talking about maybe chat messages, emails, calendar invites, calendar reminders, all of that. When you host a meeting, mute your microphone if others are presenting or speaking, just as that will then still stay in focus of who's currently talking. Use the gallery view for collaborative meetings. Remember, you can see up to 49 participants at once. And you can also share your screen, of course. Make sure that when you share your screen, you share specific applications in order to control that displayed content as well. You can use that new share to seamlessly transition between the different applications. And of course, don't hesitate to use the annotation feature to grab and direct attention. As you can see, drawing skills were flawless today. Also, if you have a camera, don't be shy. Make sure you turn that on. And if you're keen, position your webcam at or slightly above eye level to get that best angle, and try and make as much eye contact as possible. So do try to look at the camera as often as you can, as that will look like you're really talking to the person in front of you. All right, so that concludes our training session for today. If you feel like the information that's been provided to you today was maybe given a little bit fast, don't worry about it. The session is being recorded, so the presentation and the slides are going to be available later on as well on the Girlguiding website. For now, I'm going to stop the recording, and we're going to take a look at some of the questions that came up during Q&A that I can potentially also help with.